Am I missing something?
They're not coming.
Do we have
Only
10 items?
6 confirmed.
Do we have 10 items on the action items? We have 10, it says, but I don't see. Oh, okay. Okay. Jack was- To the end of the action item? 4 to 5. Oh, is it? Good morning. The Metropolitan Planning Organization Board meeting of June 8th, 2023 is called to order. Remind everyone to please silence all electronic devices. Please note this meeting is being broadcast and a video of the meeting will be available after the meeting is concluded on the county's website. At this time, I would like to ask you all, please rise for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. All right, I would like to please welcome our newest member of the MPO board, Mayor John Eric Hoover of Port Richey. Welcome. Again. All right, Madam Clerk, we have the roll call.
City Commissioner Scott Black, Councilman Lance Smith.
Here.
Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Commissioner Ron Oakley.
Here.
Commissioner Seth Wakeman.
Here.
Commissioner Catherine Starkey. Commissioner Gary Bradford. Commissioner Jack Mariano.
Here.
Chairman Matt Murphy.
Here.
Thank you.
I would also like to recognize Bob Esposito, the Executive Director of the Hernando Citrus MPO, who is with us today. Thanks for making that trip over. Thank you. All right, we're at call for public comment. We do have one person, Todd Vandenberg, like to speak.
Morning, MPO board. My name is Todd Vandenberg. I'm the planning director for the city of Zephyrhills, and I'm also a member of the MPO Technical Advisory Committee. I'm here with some other representatives of the city of Zephyrhills. We got our CRE director, Gail Hamilton, here, our city manager, William Poe, and council member Steve Spina that are also here this morning. I'm here to talk to you this morning about the ranking of the 2301 projects. It's an item you'll discuss further later in the agenda. I think you're aware of the 2301 projects, the one that's been on the ranking for some time now, a couple decades, that runs through Zephyrhills from Geiger Road to State Road 39, 301 Apex. Then the second, of course, run from that intersection down to 56. So we heard about, there was some discussion about flipping the 301 rankings and placing higher priority on the 301 project south of town down to 56. The city has some concerns about this, and we want to share some of those concerns. Not only has the project through town, through Zephyrhills, been on the project list for a couple decades. We've been patiently waiting for State Road 52 project to get done, and guess there's one more leg of that done. So we're excited about the project through Zephyrhills finally to be the highly ranked project to get the funding now. Also, through town, we've established a CRA, Community Redevelopment Area. We're trying to get development and redevelopment going. Gail Hamilton's here. She can talk more about that. But without these major road improvements, sidewalks, roads, lighting for safety, it's kind of stymied our efforts in development and redevelopment. And so meanwhile, the traffic through town has significantly gotten worse through the past couple decades. So city staff, our city council, and the businesses are not excited about the ranking being changed. Also at our last MPO Technical Advisory Committee meeting, this item was brought up, and there was a recommendation, a unanimous recommendation to keep the rankings the way they are. We also work very frugally with the DOT staff and the MPO staff to develop a ranking criteria, and with that new ranking criteria, our 301 through project through downtown was still the #1 ranked project. So we highly recommend that from the city staff, the City of Zephyr Hills Council, the business community, and the MPO Technical Advisory Committee that we respect the order and stick with it. The South 301 segment is tailing close behind. We understand that they can be worked together, but we'd still like to see the project through Zephyr Hills remain the higher ranked priority. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else for public comment? No? Seeing no one? Okay, we're going to move on to approval of the minutes. We are seeking board review and approval of the meeting minutes from the May 11th MPO board meeting. Do I have a motion and a second?
Move approval. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, next we have our MPO Advisory Committee reports. First one will be Citizen Advisory Committee, Mr. Johnny Kors.
Good morning, Johnny Kors, MPO staff. At the May 31st CAC meeting, the committee reviewed and recommended for approval the list of project priorities and also the transportation improvement program that you guys are going to see today. They also reviewed and recommended for approval the transportation disadvantaged planning grant agreement and also the associated amendment to the Unified Planning Work Program. As far as the presentations go, the committee reviewed the 2020 census presentation. You guys are also going to see that today. And there was a good discussion about how to factor in projected growth when we get to reclassifying roadways. So there was a good discussion there. The committee also had a good discussion about the US 301 PD&E update, and specifically there was good discussion about the lane widths and the different segments of 301, and also the importance of that corridor as a freight corridor. The committee also provided input into the visioning exercise for the long-range transportation plan, and specifically they had recommendations for an education component and the broader safety category. And also there was a discussion about considering new transit routes that more accurately reflect the current travel patterns and the need for those patterns. Finally, the committee provided input into the regional MPO concept for the Tampa Bay region, and the general consensus was that a regional MPO would water down the voice of Pasco County, and that possibly our influence in determining projects would be minimized as a component of an overall larger regional MPO. Also, we had a full room for the CAC meeting, so I want to thank everybody who has been working on getting representatives to the CAC. We had a good discussion in a full room, so thank y'all for that. Are there any questions?
Anyone? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, next we have the Technical Advisory Committee, Mr. Clay Watkins.
Good morning, Clayton Watkins, Pasco County Engineering Services Project Manager and Technical Advisory Committee Chairman. As Johnny also mentioned, our groups reviewed all of the items. They were also approved unanimously. There was a lot of discussion, as Todd mentioned earlier in the citizens meeting, regarding the ranking of the lot, and the group is coming to you with a recommendation of approval of the final lot to be approved as ranked by the MPO staff. In addition, there was conversation on the regional MPO also. Again, I think we shared the same thoughts that the Citizens Advisory Committee. We figured it may water down the voice of Pasco County. As you'll see in the presentation, we will become the least number of votes that was concerned with us, with the lot, and then also not only the county as a whole, but also as some of the as our cities and what's the word for the cities and our other towns inside there. There was good discussion on you'll see the presentation on the MPO by FDOT on the US 301 PD&E. Mostly discussion was regarding some discussions regarding lane widths and also room for future public transportation. In addition, let me see where we're at. Sorry. There was some good discussion regarding the long-range transportation program. A lot of it was making sure we include all the cities in the discussion, county departments, including what is going on with the revision to the comp plan. And that is all. Is there any questions?
Anyone? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Ms. Russo?
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Stovall had a last-minute emergency, so I'm going to read his report for you. May 31st BPAC meeting. BPAC met at the First National Bank of Pasco, Dade City. Minutes from the May 3rd meeting were reviewed and approved. Members were happy to recognize our newest member, Dennis Cagle, appreciated his appointment at the previous MPO meeting. We also appreciate the consideration of Mr. James Higgins for an additional new member of BPAC. Both of these gentlemen have participated in previous 2 meetings and are excellent additions to our group. The committee has heard presentations on a unified planning work program, a list of priority projects, and the final MPO transportation improvement program, and recommended these projects for MPO approval. FDOT representative presented the PD and planning activities for US 301 Fowler Avenue to 56th. This project generated some discussion and was welcomed by committee members. It was noted that newly widened 4-lane will feature multi-use purpose path along the west side of the road, which will provide connectivity with the path on the south side of State Road 56. This item is on your agenda today as well. Carl Meniscus presented additional planning activities that will taking place response according to the 2020 census. Mr. Meniscus also presented the long-range transportation plan visioning exercise. Both of these presentations are also on your agenda for today. The last item on our agenda was the consideration of potential regional MPO in the Tampa Bay area, which is also on your agenda today. I would like to share with you that our members were not in favor for a regional MPO, with the primary objection of being the small representation that Pasco County would potentially have on such a board. The concerns of the Pasco County would not necessarily receive as much potential transportation funding as this case with independent MPOs for each county. Our next meeting is August 2nd.
Right, any questions? All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, action items. Item number 1, Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged, MPO Transportation Disadvantaged Planning Grant Agreement. Ms. Tina Gorman.
Good morning, Board. I'm here to discuss the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged contract agreement that we apply for yearly in the amount of $33,204. This grant assists the local coordinating board to provide service to our transportation disadvantaged citizens. And also as a designated official planning agency, it assists us with paying staff and other duties as designated in the contract. We're asking you to review and approve, again, in the amount of $33,204.
All righty, do I have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 2, Unified Planning Work Program Amendment. Ms. Lori, oh, I'm going to mess this up. Shadiger, sorry.
Shadiger.
Oh, all
That was
right.
pretty close.
Pretty close.
With the new contract coming in, I have to raise the ceiling in our budget, about $1,874 for fiscal year '23 and '24, so I'm looking for an approval for that.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 3 is the final 2023 list of MPO project priorities. Tina Russo and Johnny Kors.
Good morning, everyone. I'm getting used to new glasses, so it's been kind of fun learning. So last month, we brought the draft to you guys. This is the final lot for your approval as well. So the only changes were that swap of 4 and 8, the 301 projects. The only other change that you might see on here from the last time is Old Pasco Road has been made into 2 segments for future funding from DOT. Everything else is as what you approved last month, except for the swap that you made from 4 and 8.
Okay, do you have anybody with public comment? Mr. Vandenberg, did you wish to speak?
Again, Todd Vandenberg, City of Zephyr Hills Planning Director. Interested in having that discussion. I think just to add to the issue at the south end of town at 301 and 56, we all understand, what the traffic is, predominantly during peak hours, but through Zephyr Hills, it's more congestion in addition to just the peak hours. So that's why we strongly feel the priority should be the number 1 through Zephyr Hills. Understand Two Rivers. In the future, there's going to be a lot of development. May not happen. Don't know when that's going to happen. But right now, we got a strong issue through Zephyr Hills. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, could I?
Yes, go ahead.
And while I don't like Todd's choice of shirt today, I do agree with him on the issue. And we had a meeting last week with DOT, and they actually right now are working on some interim things that they can do to help alleviate it. Because when you think about it, the road won't go in till 2028, 29, won't start. So we need to do something sooner down there. And in talking, I know that the consultant for one of the developers said that it wouldn't help, but DOT are the expert, and they said that they are working on some interim relief for those areas right now. So, and the thing that worries me a little bit is I've sat on this MPO for a number of years, and I've seen projects get moved around, and they get bumped down and down and down. And when we talk about regionalizing the Tampa, the Hillsborough County, Pasco, and Pinellas, if we do that, I mean, if that has to happen, then I have no hope of ever getting that thing done, the 301. So I just ask that you give consideration, and I think a discussion on it's a healthy thing. I think, that we can disagree as members, but we go to the next, but we respect each other. So, I mean, I would like to see it changed back. We established a ranking criteria that the DOT likes. Why are we trying to redo it? So, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mariano?
And Councilman, I appreciate your sentiments, and Mr. Vandenberg as well. I will tell you, there's so much growth going in the area. Coming from the east side going into 301, there's a massive jam we've got to go work on as well. And I think that's what triggered this to go. I think the conversations we have with DOT show that they want to see these done back to back as well. So I don't think even just by setting these priorities a little different, it's going to slow the project down. I think there's an impetus, and maybe Mr. Esposito can speak to it, but I think there's a big push to get them both done. I think we addressed that at the last meeting as well. So we're not leaving the city out. We think a lot of the city, and we've got some great partnerships. I mean, you and I,
Sure.
I think, led the way to get 56 multi-lane to full lane instead of just 2. So, I mean, I think all that's key, but I think what's coming on now to move these up I think they're both gonna fly, and there's ways to make that happen as well. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner
I agree with Mr. Marion on what he's saying. The problem with not doing the part from, the two-lane part from city of Zephyr Hills down in through 56 and even to the county line is you can do all you want to relieve traffic up at the top through Zephyr Hills, and Zephyr Hills right now has 3 lanes going north and 3 lanes going south. That, I know it's busy, and the change might make it better flow for them or not, you know, what they're asking for, but if we don't clear up that part down around the lower part, to 39 down to 56, and then even to the Hillsborough County line, we're going to be backlogged with, say you did the one in Zephyr Hills and it came first, you can't get past a 2-lane road down below you. And that's the only reason that I would rank it before this one, because you already have 3 lanes going north and south through the city. And them working simultaneously is the best idea I would think would work. But we've got to clear that bog down there where you got just 2 lanes, and you got developments that are going to come on board. You got 56 with more and more traffic coming to it. You got 301 that's still 2-lane on further. But if we can get that fixed with the right turn lanes and all, and on down to the county line, hopefully someday soon that Hillsborough County will realize that 301 needs to be 4-lane also, because it's just going to back up into the city unless we get that cleared out down to 56. So a lot of things are coming on, a lot of movement in the future. I hope to see 56 going across and down through Crystal Springs, cross 50 or cross 301 and down through Crystal Springs and around toward the airport of Zephyr Hills. I think gives us another route. It spreads traffic out, and I think people will all move quicker and faster through that area. The real benefit from moving that 56 on across through Crystal Springs is relieve some of those stormwater issues we have in the Crystal Springs area. Helps a lot of that community and families there. And then also it allows us through our Go Pasco transit that we'll actually have bus service down there to get people up into Zephyr Hills, and movement of traffic that way through. That helps all of our citizens. So I think both of them are equally valued, but I'd hate to put Zephyr Hills ahead of this one because it's going to be bottlenecked if you don't. So I just think that gives the edge for the part on the south part going to 56 being 4-lane sooner, and then that other one coming right. It can be done simultaneously. I don't care about it. I mean, that'll work. So I'm for both. So I just think that bottleneck at the south needs to be opened up where it won't keep jamming all that traffic back up into the city. So they need that relief too. So that's all.
Okay. Does someone want to try to change and make a motion to change the order, or gonna leave it as is?
No, I'd like to leave it like it is.
Okay.
I'll make that motion and leave it like it is.
Okay, so we'll go back to the original motion then. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Who seconded that one? Commissioner Rinaldi?
Mariana.
All right, number 4, we got adoption of the final Pasco County MPO 2024-2028 Transportation Improvement Program. Mr. Ferry? Thank you.
Yes, well.
Good morning. In your packet for your adoption is the final Pasco MPO fiscal year 2024 through 2028 Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. It contains a list of all transportation improvement projects in Pasco County to be funded with state or federal transportation funds through the Florida DOT for the next 5 fiscal years. At last month's meeting, the draft TIP was presented to you. Since the last meeting, no changes have occurred in the project list in the TIP. So the project list in this document is the same that was presented to you last month. Opportunity for public comment on the TIP was solicited through the Pasco County website for 30 days, and no public comments were received. Do I have any questions about the final TIP before I ask for a motion for adoption?
Seeing no questions, do I have a motion to approve?
I move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have appointment of new member to the MPO Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, Ms. Tina Russo.
So this one is out of Seth's district. James Higgins, again, he attended 2 meetings already and showed an interest of joining our group. So we'd like to announce and request that James Higgins from Commissioner Waitman's district be added to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, we're now moving on to status reports and presentations. Mr. Mariano, do you want to motion to move
Can you move
item
10
4
up?
up? Is it 10 or?
10, we move 10 up to the 3.
Okay.
Going to item 10.
I guess it'd be item 4, what I have, but.
Potential regional MPO for the Tempe area?
All right.
So, hi, Carl McKiska, staff to the MPO. While the slides are coming up, this is a discussion that's been taking place in the region on and off over a number of years about potentially having the 3 MPOs, Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough, merge into one Tampa Bay MPO. And so I've got a PowerPoint I'll walk through that does a good job of outlining what we have before us. So right now, this is the census-defined urbanized area shown in yellow, and you can see it extends well into Pasco County as well as covering Hillsborough and Pinellas counties. What is the current status right now? Federal regulations drive how an MPO is formed, and it has to be by agreement of the local units of government, so yourselves and the governor. So you get a voice in this no matter what. That's in federal law. This past session, 2 legislative bills were passed, 1305 and 425, and an update since this PowerPoint was developed. The governor has signed both bills. Both of them require the 3 MPOs to cooperatively develop a report showing the pros and cons of having one MPO for the region. So, as I mentioned, there's been a push in the years past, primarily coming, it seems, from the business community, and former legislators who listen to the business community have talked about this. I identified one of the items as we do not have rail transit in this region, and there seems to be a bit of envy for other regions that do have rail transit. With that transit envy, there's been a look at the Orlando region as well as the Jacksonville region, which have one MPO each, and they are cited commonly as examples of what to do. Should the Tampa Bay region merge into one MPO by population, it would be the largest MPO in the state because the Miami-Dade metropolitan area is divided among 3 MPOs. So legal requirements, I want everybody to focus on the upper right corner where it says board size. In Florida statutes, we are required to have a board between 5 and 25 members. We have a cap of 25, no matter how big the region is. And an example I want to share with you of where this could go rather large and get a little unwieldy. Detroit has a board of 125 members. They meet once a year, and they delegate everything out to
How do they get a
committees.
How would they get a quorum for 800 members?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how you get a room big enough. The rest of this is stuff that the staff can handle, but I wanted to point that out because that drives the next set of issues that I want you to be looking at. These are some more of the requirements that are in Florida statute as well as federal statute. But let's talk a little bit about where we would go from here. Again, the legislature demanded a report by December 31st to be submitted to the Speaker of the House, the Senate President, and the Governor. There is a report from 2018 that's already been formulated. We can use that as a starting point to jump off. So that lift can be handled. If there was a regional board and we went to the full max of 25 members and based it on population, which is what is commonly done, Pasco would have 4 representatives, Hillsborough would have 12, Pinellas would have 9.
Mr. Jones?
Commissioner?
Just because that is such an important point. When you look at the representatives that are proposing here in this sheet, it goes 4 for us, Hillsborough 12, Pinellas 9. We've got the room to grow. We've got the growth that's going on. We're accommodating. We're having to deal with it. I think we should be focused more closer to a land mass thing as well. And especially with potential open land, where development's going to come in, somehow that's got to get factored in to get our numbers up higher.
Yes, and it is defined to be a geographic political ratio for the membership of a board. Now, we have, as you said, a great deal of land mass. The other MPOs in the region may want to rely upon population because that benefits them most. The other thing I'll point out about these numbers is these are based on the 2020 census, which was in April 1 of 2020. We've grown phenomenally since then. You know, we have issued a lot of building permits. We have explosive growth here. We are the 5th fastest growing county in the nation. So that's something also that we have to be looking at from our interest standpoint. In the packet, there is a regional MOU. There are some technical things that need to be updated. For example, Pasco is identified as a TPO. We're an MPO. But it is a sample for you to see so that you can look at that and see what are the considerations to go forward in developing this report that we'll have to do for the legislature. Now, the bigger purpose of bringing this before you today is on June 23rd, the region is meeting, and 3 of you are members to that, but there's a 9-member board here. With Sunshine Law, it's important that you have an opportunity to discuss this so that our 3 representatives going to this regional meeting at District 7 headquarters on June 23rd can speak with the full voice of all 9 members. I think you heard in the committee reports earlier, each of the committees advised against forming a regional MPO. And so and they're here to advise you. But I would like to have this dialogue so that we as the Pasco group, when we arrive at this regional meeting, are prepared with the unified voice.
Mr. Oakley?
I wouldn't be for a regional meeting with these numbers, with 12, 4, and 9. You would never find a project in Pasco County that would get voted in above anything else because they just got way more votes than we have. It wouldn't work. The only way a regional effort would work is if you had 4 members from each county, and then we all have an equal ballot. I mean, in Tampa Water, we're spread out in with the 3 counties and 2 cities. It works, but we all discuss and vote, and it's worked with that regional. But we're not outnumbered by one county over another. So, and we have people from different counties that represent their thoughts too. So they're very reasonable in what we do for Tampa Bay Water, and we're balanced as far as that. But you go to this, and Pasco County, even though you're growing fast, you would never be at top of some list because they would outvote you all the time. So,
Mr. Waitman?
Thank you. Yep. So at our last TMA meeting, we were going through that MOU document, and there was some language that kind of, I don't know, wasn't fair to the state. So I appreciate that being amended, and appreciate Commissioner Mariano and Starkey's support and showing a partnership, setting a tone of a partnership versus, an adversary. Another point to make in this MOU it deals with staffing and obligating the county administrator should something happen to hire existing staff. I think there needs to be, I think it's important that we have to balance ourselves in not guaranteeing jobs. Whoever the leader of the organization is, I think they need to have the flexibility to bring in the folks that best fit their style and who will lead the organization to the next level. So I think that section, Article 2, Part L on page 4, that we should take a closer look at that language. And those are just my comments on the MOU.
Mr. Mariano?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And as a small city, my fear would be getting lost in the shuffle, especially if we have this membership as proposed here. We may never get funds for anything, really. I mean, I would hope it would be equitable, but who's the staff going to be? Is it going to be housed by Hillsborough County, or we don't know. I think there's a lot of questions that need to be answered on who's going to staff it. The other thing is, I'm not sure why Orlando would be a model, because if anybody drives on I-4, that's not a good, I don't understand why they would give that as our model. So I would be totally opposed to it. So.
Yeah.
Mr. Mariano?
Yeah, it's a difficult conversation, depends how everything's set up. And, I was just doing some quick numbers, take it down. If we took one from Hillsborough and Pinellas, now it goes from 6 to 11 and 8. When we had the TMA meet, we were like prioritizing projects. After Pinellas and Hillsborough got their big projects, we got the 41 and 54 project to be put on the list. And Pinellas, 2 county commissioners from Pinellas made those motions for us. So that was that was encouraging. When we just had the 3 counties have a meeting, I will tell you the dialogue, as much as everyone was afraid of certain conversations, like water, everything flowed very well. The 3 administrators got along real well. They ran the meeting well. It was good to look face to face with the people as we talk about different things. I can imagine the conversation we would have sitting talking about 301 and saying, Hillsborough, what are you going to go do? You've seen the conversation, Mr. Oakley, for years. We've talked about all the connections from Hillsborough County, north-south. All those connections could have freed up traffic if we planned all those things better together. And there's still going to be more opportunities coming up in the future through New River, et cetera. Even with Pinellas, you drive down Trinity Road or Mitchell Boulevard, you get jam-packed at that border because nobody thinks about the top border. County Line Road, how long has that one sat? That was 13, you talk about projects sitting for a long time? That's been ranked 13, 14 for 18 years, hasn't moved. Now, hopefully after July 1st, we'll get some progress with DOT, working with Hernando, and I know Carl's been working on it real hard. We may get some progress there. So there are benefits to getting together, but the key is, just like if you're going to play a golf match, how you set the match up in the first tee. That's what's got to happen. We've got to get good terms that work for us that can accommodate our growth, our land mass, our potential. I think there's a lot of opportunities in addition to the funding that we have in place right now. We only get so much funding because we don't have that big voice as one. If we did come together as one, under the right terms, you could grab so much more federal money that would fund that rail transit, which we lack and need. I will tell you, I just drove from Clearwater through Tampa, coming up 75, and the traffic wasn't that bad. I mean, I had one little spot at the airport, but after that, really the traffic moved. It was busy, but it moved. It wasn't like some of the areas like Orlando when I-4 you jammed out. So I think regionally we can work together. There's potential. I mean, that CSX line that runs from Mosey down through Oldsmar, all the way down to St. Pete. The fact that we're building a bridge is going to have a rail line component that will take the other line from CSX that runs right down from the heart of Tampa, right up 41 to right to Brooksville. There's a core that's there that we can build from and do a lot of good things. So I don't want to throw and just say no, no, no. I think it's a conversation to have if we can structure the right deal, put the right representation together for us. Maybe there's a way we can take the components of based on population. The minimum amounts still get spent where they're getting spent in each county to county, so we're protected that way. But let's go look at the bigger projects, the bigger opportunities that are out there.
Chair.
Commissioner Waitman?
Thank you. So it sounds like we're all a hard no for 4 members.
Yeah.
So I think to get the project starting, we should probably say, hey, you gotta give us at least 2 more somehow, some way. I think, Carl, you see the appetite to work together and do great, build great infrastructure projects as a region, but with just a representation of 4, with all the points you make of 5th fastest growing county in the country, Pasco's the place to be, the life that's here and the vibrant environment that's being created. I think there's real value in that to go and advocate for some better representation in Pasco.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. I think, with just 4 seats, they're just inviting us to hang out. We're not involved in the process, So, we definitely need to do something else.
Carl, I actually think if it was a membership of 4, 4, and 4, I mean, you'd be outvoted by 2 other counties or whatever, but you have a better chance to get things done because you got a membership with 4, 4, 4 of 12, and then you're only required to have 7 people there, I guess, so for a quorum. You get a lot more done with that group with the right members on there than you would with 25 that they're weighted toward those larger counties, and Pasco being the little one, we actually wouldn't get a good voice, I don't think, for that kind of meeting. So, okay.
Mr. Chairman? Let me throw an idea out. Again, those 5 commissioners meetings that we had, the 5 commissioners that showed up for the 3 counties, I thought was very impressive. What if we did something along the line of proposal of 5 of each, and then you give 1 more for the airport and 1 more for the port?
Well, with that case, I think you need a water component.
Well, the problem you got is you're adding those 2 more. I mean, well, they couldn't totally control, but those 5 commissioners are supporting that airport and they're supporting that port there in Hillsborough County. So, I mean, adding 2 more for them would, I mean, if you had 5, 5, 5, that's a good group too, so.
Okay.
But you don't have so many members, you can't make quorum. And Carl can tell you how bad it is when we have memberships and come together and we don't have quorum. Today we got 6 out of 9. So that's, that's tough to make quorum and get action done while you're here meeting. So the lesser number, and like 555 would be, to me, a better number to be looking at, but I definitely wouldn't want this to go forward with this kind of membership the way they've got it lined out.
Agreed.
So try to even it up.
Well, and at the June 23rd meeting, we will have 3 representatives, as will the other 3 counties as well. And so this dialogue is what we want to have shared at that meeting. And so that was the purpose of this discussion today.
So they're going to have 3 members each?
We do at the regional meeting, yes. Yes, we have 3 members.
Who are they?
From each MPO.
Who's going to be representing us?
So, Commissioner Mariano.
Actually, I won't be around, but it's supposed to be Commissioner Starkey, Commissioner Waitman, Commissioner Bradford is sick, so I don't know if he's going to make it.
Yep.
So I do think we need to get 3. I won't be able to make it, I'll be out of town.
Yeah, there's a potential conflict I have, so we need to have Commissioner Oakley or figure that out.
I'll have to check my calendar, but I don't have a problem meeting, so.
Okay.
I think your voice will be well received.
I'll make sure I'm heard.
Okay.
Well, the topic of this will be to discuss primarily how we go forward in developing this legislatively mandated report. And so the report is just to investigate the pros and cons.
Anyone else?
What are the sizes of the Hillsborough and Pinellas boards? Just out of curiosity.
7.
I apologize, I do not know that off top.
7 each.
Offhand.
And then we're.
What time of day is that
9?
meeting gonna be, Carl?
Mid-morning.
Mid-morning? I'm open, so.
Andy Taylor, legislative aide for Commissioner Waitman and keeper of all random knowledge, like the size of Hillsboro's MPO board. The Hillsboro MPO, which is now the TPO, they have a significantly larger board. It's either 11 or 13. They have the port, the airport, the school district, and the expressway authority on their MPO, and there may be one or two others that I'm not remembering. And Ford Pinellas has a similar structure with some other representatives outside the county commission and cities on their board.
Yeah. Thank you. Carl, I can make that meeting. I don't have anything that day.
Okay, great to hear. Thank you. All right, I'll work with you each to make sure we have full representation of members there.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one, and happy anniversary.
What? In that golf game you were talking about, it's not how you play, it's how you do the handicaps, right?
I'll start from the front.
All right, we'll move back up to item number 1, US 301, State Route 41 from Fowler Avenue to State Route 56, PD&E presentation by the Florida DOT. Ms. Amber Russo.
Thank you. So I just put it. Okay, perfect. Good morning, Chair and board members. My name is Amber Russo. I'm the FDOT project manager for this PD&E study along US 301. This is, I think, number 20 on your priority list. It's in the southern portion of your county. It runs from Fowler Avenue to State Road 56. Last time I was here was spring of last year, after we had held our first public hearing, and I gave you an overview of the feedback we had received at the hearing. And since then, we've taken that feedback, made some changes to our design and alternatives. And so I wanted to present those to you today and also announce our second public hearing that will be coming up in August. Okay, so as most of you know, this segment of US 301 is just 2 lanes today, and it runs for 13 miles. And the existing right-of-way varies from 100 to 200 feet. The purpose of this project is, of course, to add additional roadway capacity, improve safety, and enhance mobility for pedestrians and bicyclists. This route has been designated as an emergency evacuation route by both Hillsborough and Pasco counties. We took a look at the future traffic volumes, and in year 2040, the volumes are projected to range from about 28,000 to 49,000 vehicles per day. So if no roadway improvements are done, we're looking at a level of service F in both directions during the peak hours. We also, of course, took a look at the crash data for the 5-year period from 2015 to 2019. There were 464 crashes, and that included 16 fatalities, 338 injuries, and 5 crashes involving a pedestrian. The crash rate on this segment is higher than the statewide average, as you can see in that table. So here's a look at the changes we've made to our design. The bottom typical section on the screen is the original, and the new one is on the top. So the highlighted sections, those highlight the changes that were made. So previously, this is the southern segment from Fowler Avenue to Stacy Road in Hillsborough County. Previously, we had a suburban section with 12-foot lanes. We now have an urban section with curb and gutter on the inside and outside. We've reduced the travel lanes to 11 feet wide, and we've also widened the bike lanes from 5 feet to 7-foot buffered bike lanes. Now for the northern portion from Stacy Road to State Road 56, We previously had a rural typical section with a design speed of 65 miles per hour. We have altered this to a suburban design with a target and design speed of 55 miles per hour. I forgot to mention on the previous slide, we reduced the design speed from 55 to 45 for the southern section. But for this section, it's 55. We were able to reduce the median width from 40 feet to 30 feet and add the curb. We also got a lot of comments on why we weren't including a sidewalk on the east side. So we went ahead and we added a 6-foot sidewalk on the east side, and we kept the 12-foot shared use path, which runs through the entire project limits. There are 4 existing bridges along the project limits. They are all recommended to remain, and they can carry the southbound traffic. However, for the new southbound lanes, we would have to build new bridges. And then there's also an existing box culvert at Two Holes Branch that will have to be totally replaced with the new bridges. Just want to take a look at how the shared use path bridges would be built. At all the bridges except Hillsborough River, we would build a separate 12-foot bridge on the west side for the shared use path, as shown at the top of the screen. And then the bottom, this is the bridge over Hillsborough River. We'd actually be able to widen the existing bridge to accommodate the 12-foot shared use path. So since we are adding, we're adding a median, the access classification is a class 3, and the minimum median opening spacing for directional openings, which is the bottom graphic, that's 1,320 feet minimum spacing between, and then for full median openings, as shown on the top graphic, and for any signalized intersections, we need at least 2,640 feet between. And for this segment, we are proposing 15 full median openings and 10 directional. Those will be shown at the public hearing on our concept plans. Since we are adding pavement and roadway capacity, we do have to accommodate the drainage runoff. So we are proposing 11 off-site stormwater management facilities and 7 floodplain compensation sites. These add up to 97 acres of additional right-of-way that would be off-site. As with any PD&E study, we took a look at the environmental effects on the natural and cultural resources, as well on the social and physical environments. These costs are being updated, but I wanted to show the previous costs. So for the design phase through construction, with the previous alternatives, we were looking at just under $200 million. We will have those costs updated prior to the public hearing. This project, as I mentioned, it's on your priority list, however, is not in your cost feasible plan. It is in your needs plan, and that goes for Hillsborough County as well. The study began back in May of 2015, so you've probably seen a lot of presentations on this, but we did hold our first public hearing back in March of last year, as I mentioned, and our second will be on August 1st. And we hope to have study approval by the end of this year. I do want to mention this is a SEER, a State Environmental Impact Report. So we are not currently, would be seeking federal funding. So this would be approved by the district. As far as funding, the design phase for the Pasco County section is 100% funded. The Hillsborough section is only 15% funded for design, and right-of-way and construction are not currently funded. So like I said, our second public hearing, it will be on the evening of August 1st from 5:30 to 7:30. Same location as last time. It'll be at our District 7 headquarters on McKinley Drive. If you can't make it in person, you can attend virtually via GoToWebinar, and that link will be on our website. You will have to pre-register for that. Here's the project website. It's not fully up to date yet, but it will be prior to the hearing. We'll load all the public hearing documents and reports for viewing. Also, of course, my contact information is on here. And I want to thank you for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Commissioner Waitman?
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation. Fantastic to see. Historically, the Hillsborough Board, BOCC, hasn't seemingly had an interest in this project. Can you kind of lead on as if the temperament has changed in the sake of working, in a regional way? I know it's kind of delicate, but I figured I'd just ask.
Yes, you are correct. When I made this similar presentation, okay, Justin.
Got you some support there.
Justin Hall, FDOT District 7. So I will say this, we've revised the typicals based on comments from Hillsborough County. So even though there's been a change in the makeup of the board, we made the changes based on feedback we received from them. We actually received a letter from them. And so the typical we have now addresses the old board's concerns, and we're going to present to them again in August. So I imagine that we will have a better reception when we present this time to the board.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Good report, Smith. And this, when you say something regional, that's just, the previous item was something we just discussed about being regional, but, I mean, it makes it difficult when, and I would understand Hillsborough County's position on it, because maybe that's not a priority, that's not even on the priority list for them. Is it on their priority list at all?
That's a good question.
No. So I mean, we can build our section down to there, but then that is one.
Then you get the backlog. So.
Right, yeah. It backs up into there. So, I mean, it's difficult. I'm glad you're doing the study. I'm glad we saw the presentation. I'm glad some interest is moving forward. But what it does is we'll just push the backup on down to Hillsborough County is what we do, So, I mean, and let me ask you this, does the road being at the level of service that it is, and also the fatalities, is that an impetus to go ahead and get the project done?
It does, and that's why we went with a state-funded report. That's why we went with the SEER, because we can approve that, and we can actually move forward even if it's not consistent with the plans of the MPOs. And so that's why we went the way we went. And so that would be, we'd be funding it with state funds instead of federal funds, so we wouldn't even be looking for the MPOs to participate.
Okay, okay, and that's good information, thank you.
Well, I can say right up front for FDOT, if it's a safety reason for doing anything, that's on top of their list to take care of safety. They've done that all along, and they continue to do that.
Absolutely, and just so you know, I know there was the previous conversation on the priority list. 301 is a priority for us. So whether it's 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, we're going to keep working on it. So
yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next up, we have the census update, 2020 census update. Next steps, Mr. Carl.
Thank you. So I'm going to run this through this. Obviously, as we all know, every 10 years, the census performs a count of who lives in the United States, and from that, a number of different products are developed. One of those is the definition of our urbanized areas. As you can see here on the screen, this is our urbanized area. There's the Tampa area coming north into us. There's also an area that is in Hernando County that comes south into Pasco County. You'll see Dade City is identified as its own urbanized area. Let's talk a little bit about what is an urbanized area. So there were a few changes in methodologies. There used to be urban clusters. The census has done away with that. So the urban clusters used to be from 2,500 persons to almost 50,000, and that was since 1910. Now we have urbanized areas only, 5,000 persons and above. To be an MPO, you have to have 50,000 persons and above. That has not changed. New this census was the recognition that we have development, but not necessarily people. So if there are 2,000 houses, that was also used as a determinant to identify an urbanized area. Think of many of your vacation areas such as the Keys or Lake Tahoe, where there may be a number of houses or rooftops that people go to, but their primary home is somewhere else. So that was the recognition of that housing element that defines an urban character. So they used housing density of 425 units or doors per square mile. And once you have that nucleus or that core, every 200 units per square mile gets added on to it. And you keep growing out until you lose that density. Is roughly similar to 1,000 people per square mile, which was the factor used by the Census Bureau previously. So let's compare what we looked like with the 2010 census and the 2020 census. So the purple areas are rural. The lighter purple, I'll call it. The red areas are the new areas in the 2020 census. The blue areas are areas that were urbanized in the 2010 census, but not in 2020. And then the blue and red mixture that's kind of a dark reddish purple color was urbanized in both 2010 and 2020. So, I don't know. Here we go. So we have areas like this blue peninsula that was urbanized in 2010, but not in 2020. And you ask, how could that be? If it was urbanized then, how could it not be urbanized today? I jokingly said, we did not have the great Pasco fire that changed our landscape. So there was a change in the methodology, and let me show you that. They used something called hops and jumps. And I want you to understand this so you can see why we've had these changes. Hops are basically you follow a roadway corridor, and if there's something that is not developed, you can hop half a mile to start picking up urbanization again. It could be a lake. It could be a state park. It could be somebody who says, I'm not selling the land. And the kids are going, good, because when you pass away, we will. So that is a hop. A jump is 1.5 miles. So as you go along that corridor and you get to a longer stretch, a bigger lake, a bigger state park, a bigger farm, you can jump 1.5 miles to pick up urbanization. But once you make a jump, you may not do a hop after that. Well, the hop distance was reduced from 2.5 miles down to 1.5 miles. The 2.5 mile limit was used in the 2000 census and 2010 census. Prior to 2000, it was 1.5 miles. The census reverted back to that methodology used in 1990. The other thing I want to point out is, and we have to remember, the census was conducted on April 1, 2020. We've had a lot of growth since then. COVID made it clear that you could work remotely, and some people who had snow shovels decided they would trade them in for jet skis. And they came to Pasco County and to Florida in general. So hence the great growth we're having. This is a snapshot in time. It is a picture of what we were April 1st, 2020. And we have to stay with that. We do not look at what has happened since then. So this is a series of steps we'll be going through. That's kind of busy, but we've got it outlined this way, which will be a little bit easier to follow. We are required to do a smooth boundary map. We'll be bringing you a draft of that soon. It is basically that urbanized area with all those funny configurations. We just look for an easily identifiable feature in the field, usually a roadway, and we just move out to that. The idea is we add a few blocks, not a few miles, and we have a smooth boundary that gets put on a map. That identifies our urbanized area. We have our planning area. Currently, we plan the entire county. It's just the county boundaries. Staff recommendation is let's stay with that. I don't see any reason to change it. It ain't broke, let's not fix it. The other thing is an apportionment plan. And that is who sits on the board here. And we have to look at that. We've grown, all of us, somewhat proportionally. If we like the format we have here, we'd recommend let's stay with exactly the way we are today. And so we will be bringing you that. And then the last thing is an update of the functional classification map, and that's a little bit heavier lift, and that's not due until next year. But I do want to seek a little bit of staff guidance from you regarding the apportionment plan. Do we like our board the way we are? Do we want to make changes? Right now, I feel that you've been very unified in your voice as to what we want for a vision for the county. Do we want to stay this direction going forward? It'd be my recommendation to you as your staff.
Anyone have I speak for myself, I think it works well the way it is.
I think it's very well balanced the way it is now.
I do too.
Yeah.
Agree.
All right. Well, we will work on an updated, taking the existing apportionment plan, but update it with the current census data. It will be an action item in the future. We'll bring it to you as a draft, and then we'll seek formal action at the next meeting after that. But we wanted to run that past you. So that is all I have on this topic. Are there any questions?
I do.
Mr. Waitman?
So we have representation from every major city here and the county.
Mm-hmm.
With the growth that's come in, this is Commissioner Oakley's area, but there's no representation from St. Anne or St. Leo. Is there? Is that necessary, or you think we're covered since?
We're covered. They're in my district.
You're the mayor?
They're covered. I'm telling you, they're covered. You're gonna change this membership on this board, we have a hard time right now getting a quorum at times.
Yeah.
You'd make it even
That's
tougher.
true. That's true.
I mean, and they're covered, yeah. I look after my cities in my district. I look after those on the west side and other districts, so.
Well, we appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And I presume we'll still allow Commissioner Starkey to look out for bicycle interests in your district, right? The bicycle planning?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Well, that concludes this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carl. Okay, next up, we have long-range transportation plan visioning exercise. Mr. Carl.
Yes, thank you. So the long-range plan is a federally and state required document that we update every 5 years. Our due date is December of next year. And as we go into this, it is not only a document that identifies specific projects where we program dollars to projects, but it is also a policy document where we can then say, these are the things we want to be as we look forward into that future. So we're looking out 20 plus years with the long range plan. And I always jokingly say it's the what do I want to be when I grow up? Because 25 years from now seems so far away. So what we want to do is talk to you about the vision of this document and how we use this document to shape the future of Pasco County. Because it's a very useful tool in terms of driving economic development, quality of life issues, as well as mobility. So there are 10 federal planning factors. There's a lot on this slide. I'm not going to ask you to read these, but part of what our job as staff will be is to make sure we address each of these because we're federally and state required to do so. But within that, we have the latitude to shape what we want to emphasize. While we have to address each of these, we can emphasize particular areas. And so I want to start with this and identify a few things that I've heard. Open spaces, vibrant places, city of pure water might sound familiar. These are our logos. And as I look at these, each one of them focused on the quality of life for people in Pasco County. And this document, in addition to mobility, as I said, can help us to really make Pasco a much more attractive place going into the future. We're already a great place. We can be better. So what should be our emphasis? Well, let me address kind of what I'll call the elephant in the room. We are having rapid growth, and we are growing faster than we can build infrastructure to address it. So we will have congestion in the future. We will not be able to completely eliminate it. And we have to just acknowledge that going into this effort. We will still build new roads and widen our existing roads. We will still add infrastructure. That's the purpose of this plan. We sat down as a team to talk about what we thought would be good emphasis areas, and then we walked this in front of the 3 committees who have some input for you. So we identified safety. It is the highest scoring element of our list of project priority scoring. We want to emphasize safety in this long-range plan. Looking at transportation system management and operations, think of it as when you're driving a corridor and you maintain the speed limit and you catch green lights the whole way, because somebody has taken the time and effort to signalize them so that you have this continuous flow. In a nutshell, that's what TISMO is. It is a low-cost way to squeeze performance out of the existing system we have. We feel this should be another emphasis area. As we are growing and we will have additional density and population, looking at transit as a strong part of our future and planning for that so that that future is available seems like something that would be wise of us to preserve the future of Pasco County. And then looking at context-sensitive design, and you'll hear Commissioner Starkey talk a lot about the aesthetics of our roadways and the features that go with it. The 301 presentation by Ms. Russo showed that we were going to have a multi-use path along there. That's part of context-sensitive design. It's being sensitive to the environment that you're building in so that it is harmonious with your municipality or your district. And then we're building for people, not necessarily cars. People are in the cars, but people may want to get around in other ways. We have to acknowledge we're building mobility for people. From your committees, the Citizens Advisory recommended that we have an education element that focuses on safety, and they mentioned transit routes. The Technical Advisory Committee said they want to see economic development on this list. The Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee said they want to see trail connectivity and aesthetics that give Pasco County a sense of place. We're seeking your input because we're going to be shortly looking to engage a consultant to help us with this effort. And we want to outline what are going to be the emphasis or priority areas. And so we're seeking your feedback or input to this exercise. So what would you advise us that you would like to see on this list for emphasis areas, please? And I know everybody's probably thinking more money. I'm already on that. I beat you guys up pretty regularly.
That helps a lot.
I mean, they're all necessary.
Right.
Well, and that's a nice compliment to us that we're understanding our board. So, my compliments to the team.
I think safety is obviously should always be number one. Since all these components are necessary, I guess you're kind of looking at for stack rank them. Is what?
I'm sorry.
Are you looking to have these? You want us to rank them, or
No, not necessarily rank them, but rather, as we have these as emphasis areas, is there anything that we've overlooked that we should add to this list? And again, as I mentioned, there was economic development, aesthetics, trail connectivity, transit routes, and education, focusing on safety. And I was pleased to get that feedback from the committees, the advisory committees. So it sounds like we have a list that's good to begin a consultant looking at our long-range plan. So thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I think that was it for our presentations. Other business, I would like to call upon Mayor Hoover for a nomination to the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was brought to my attention that Port Richey has 2 slots in the CAC that are unfilled, and so I put my feelers out to the community, and I have a couple people to fill those slots. I'll make a nomination for both the same. I want to nominate Ronald McDonald as the primary, and then Jerry Griffin as the alternate. Both those guys actually live close together and plan on carpooling to the meetings together, so we'll have good representation for Port Richey there. So I'd like to nominate those two. Again, Ronald McDonald as the primary, Jerry Griffin as the alternate.
All right.
I move approval. Or you, that's your motion?
Yeah, motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I second.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, do we have any other business? Anybody like to talk about it? Are we good? All right, next meeting will be in Newport Richey on August 11th, 2023. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Good job, man.
Don't need a motion.
You got it. Here's that damn guy.